Welcome to Securing America with me, Frank Gaffney, the program that's a kind of owner's manual for protecting the country we love against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to the glory of God and His kingdom. We have a very important conversation that we're going to begin momentarily with three of my favorite people working in the space of protecting Christians being horribly persecuted around the world. Before we get to it, I want to just give you a minute of my thoughts as context. Last week, President Trump, to his great credit, resolved to punish radical Islamists in Nigeria responsible for the mass slaughter of Christians. In a social media post on October 31st, he declared, quote, "The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world," unquote. Next week, though, President Trump will actually be hosting Ahmed al-Sharaa at the White House, a man who until recently led radical Islamists of al-Qaeda and ISIS in committing atrocities against Christians and others in Syria. Worse yet, now he's Syria's president. They have ties to his regime and are continuing with impunity to perpetrate such persecution. Let us pray that Mr. Trump will make clear that his protection extends to those great Christians in Syria, too. Well, with that, let me introduce my dear friend and valued colleague, the president and CEO of Save the Persecuted Christians, Dede Laugesen. She is no stranger to this program. She has been with us for quite some time now, bringing you information about this most horrific crime against humanity of all human history, namely the persecution of now some 380 million Christians around the world. Dede, it's so good to have you with us, and I know you've brought some big guns in the Save the Persecuted Christians community. Introduce them, please, and a short video that you've done as well on the subject. You see it?
Thank you, Frank. As you know, Save the Persecuted Christians started in 2018, endeavoring to raise awareness about the plight of more than 380 million Christians facing the most brutal and extreme violence in a record number of countries globally. We are a large national multi-faith, bipartisan coalition of civil society leaders who work to work with concerned Americans, victims of persecution, and others to hold the perpetrators accountable for their crimes against humanity. And Frank, we are launching a campaign to counter President Ahmed al-Sharaa, who is coming, as you said, to the White House on Monday. We are launching a social media video that will be shared by multiple platforms across the web starting tomorrow. We also have over 50 American Christian leaders who've signed on to a faith letter, Frank, that we'll be sending to the president also tomorrow. And we have a call to action at SaveThePersecutedChristians.org, where the American public can also send a letter to President Trump. So, Frank, this letter and the video call on President Trump to secure a humanitarian corridor from Hadar, which is a Druze city near the Israeli border, to Soweto, where over 700,000 Druze and Christians and other minorities are suffering from a blockade that has continued to endure since they were attacked this summer. Frank, and over 3,000 people murdered. Now they're finding mass graves. Frank, let's go to the video, and then we'll come back and introduce our guests.
Massacre in Syria. Christians and others are being slaughtered by radical Islamic terrorists, burned alive, beheaded, persecuted for their faith, and their cries have been ignored. Their suffering is deepening as winter approaches. 700,000 people in Soweto are starving, deprived of water, food, and basic medicine. President Trump, you're the only world leader fighting for religious freedom. Tell President al-Sharaa to keep his promises and stop blocking humanitarian aid. Tell al-Sharaa, end the blockade.
Wow. Very powerful, Dede. Congratulations on pulling this together and this larger campaign. I'm proud to have been one of the signers on that letter, and I'm so excited that others will be able to join us in calling for this humanitarian corridor. We've got two guests with us who have deep experience in this region, including one who's just returned from Syria. Introduce them, if you would, Dede, please.
Certainly. Nadine Menza is the co-chair for the International Religious Freedom Roundtable in Washington, D.C., and my friend Charmaine is the president of the Shai Fund, located in Israel, but does amazing work around the world, Frank.
And Nadine, maybe we could talk with you a little bit from your on-the-ground assessment of what is going on. What Dede described is horrific, and it stands in, a similar light to what the president has said he's not going to tolerate in Nigeria. Should he tolerate it in Syria?
Of course not. And, Syria is so complicated because, of course, we had 60 years of authoritarian rule by Bashar al-Assad that really divided religious communities against each other. He set up the majority against the minority. So a lot of people have this belief that he protected the Christians, but really used them as hostages, kind of against the Sunni majority, and setting up a situation now where there's so much hostility and anger towards different sects. The Christians are kind of caught in the crossfire, and it's a very hostile place for them to be. And of course, with so much of the violence we've seen in Syria, there has been proof that the government themselves, the security forces of the government, have been implicated. In fact, sometimes even upload videos of themselves committing atrocities against, in particular, Druze, Alawites, and sometimes Christians. And so just
to be clear, there's no question in your mind that the government of Syria under al-Shara, former al-Jalani, is implicated in these actions?
Well, their security forces are, and the question really is, is it that they're following orders, or is it that the government has no control over them? I don't believe that al-Shara thinks it would be a win for him to be committing atrocities against these communities right now. But he has these Islamist forces, some that answered the call to jihad, that came from around the world, the foreign fighters, to join HTS, his original terrorist group, Hayat al-Shar, and then to move on and become part of the government. So it's a complicated situation. I've talked to several people in the government that do want peace and stability. They don't want this kind of violence. But because there's impunity for people that kidnap and kill religious minorities, it's kind of set the stage for people to think they can get away with those kind of crimes without any sort of accountability.
I was told, and I don't know if you can comment on this, that in the immediate run-up to al-Shara coming to the United Nations to speak and to be feted as a great, reformer, notwithstanding his past track record with these jihadists, villages in these minority areas were put to the torch. Mm-hmm. And the implication was that he did know about it and countenanced it. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, we do know there has been, no focus from the government to stop it. There's been them sending, anytime they've sent in troops to bring peace, it's done the opposite. So it's hard to know exactly how coordinated these are and what the government, if the government is a part of them. But the fact remains they're happening, that people are losing their lives. They're being kidnapped for ransom, sometimes being killed before, even if they collect the ransom, that these horrible atrocities are happening throughout Syria, and there is no cost for them committing these crimes. And that environment, regardless of how, if in fact they're complicit or they're just allowing it to happen, are not able to stop it.
Yeah.
It's still,
this is part of
dangerous. Yeah.
And Dede, I'm so grateful to you for your leadership in all of this. The work of the Save the Persecuted Christian Coalition is to try to ensure that the perpetrators are held accountable and are penalized for what they're doing. And this needs to be done, it seems to me, with respect to the Syrian regime, as well as these so-called security forces. Dede, we're almost out of time before the break, but I did want to thank Charmaine Heading for joining us as well, and we're going to talk with her on the other side of the break about how all of this is perceived by her, of course, as well as from Israel, which is unfortunately in the crosshairs of these jihadis as well. We'll be right back with that and more. Stay tuned, please.